I have it on good authority that Tennessee is going to throw new wrinkles in its offensive scheme this year that they haven't shown the last few years. There are a few reasons for this. One, the 3-3-5 shell defense has become a way to slow down the Heupel passing attack, and Tennessee wants to hit you deep. Missouri first debuted it in 2023, and then everybody followed suit in 2024, which is why Tennessee kept it on the ground, but they want to be able to throw it more. The other part of this is Tennessee has a quarterback with more moxie, willing to take more risk, and also more willing to throw it over the middle, who processes more quickly than the last two starting quarterbacks they had did. With those two things in mind, there will be new things in the offense this year. I can just tell you that up front. However, when will they reveal those new wrinkles? Should Tennessee reveal those new wrinkles when they face Syracuse on Saturday? That is today's tough question. It's brought to you by Banks & Jones, Tennessee's trial attorneys. Play to win. Why settle? Banks & Jones, led by T. Scott Jones, banksandjones.com. And that is up as the poll question. The poll question is this: should the Vols reveal any new wrinkles in their offensive scheme on Saturday? Yes, show what they've got. No, they won't need to. Tennessee's schedule obviously starts off with Syracuse on Saturday, and then they play ETSU the next week. So assuming they don't need to when they play Syracuse on Saturday, they won't need to until they play Georgia, which would be the goal. However, a bunch of simulations have been run for this Tennessee-Syracuse game, guys, and there is a strong possibility that Syracuse makes this a game. Not because they're on Tennessee's level. Long-term, they won't be. But the 98 Syracuse team wasn't on the 98 Tennessee team's level, and they put up a fight against Tennessee in that first game. Tennessee was still getting the offense going with Team Martin. They weren't ready to show everything yet. They relied heavily on Jamal Lewis, and they weren't ready to open things up, and they just barely got out of there with the win, for those who don't remember. I actually think the gap in talent between Tennessee and Syracuse is roughly the same right now that it was in 1998. Now, many of you are going to say, what? Syracuse was significantly better in 98 than they are this year. That's true. So was Tennessee. Okay, so yes, Syracuse was significantly better in 98 than they are this year. However, Tennessee was significantly better in 98 than they are this year too. So a Big East champion in Syracuse is like a 7-5 ACC team, 8-4 ACC team in Syracuse this year, which they're more than capable of doing. This year's Tennessee team would not stand a chance against the 98 Tennessee team. So again, the gap is similar, which is why this game could be much closer than it's needed. If that's the case, will they need to show some of their new wrinkles? That is one of the questions. The other one is this, and this is a big reason. Part of making defenses adjust to what you're doing is showing your new wrinkles. You want them to have to prepare for that. Doesn't Tennessee want Georgia to prepare for their wrinkles that they have in their new offense? Or do they want to surprise them? That's kind of how you're going to go with this. You don't know which way to go because you want to have to open up what you have to prepare for, but you also want to disguise some of your scripted plays and your new wrinkles, which is, by the way, again, has been brought up. Tennessee brought in Seth Littrell as an offensive analyst that this offseason. This is a big reason why they wanted to work these things out. Now, here's where I lean. I think you keep it close to the vest. I think you try your best not to reveal anything if you can help it. And here's why. And this is a big reason why. I think Georgia, you're not going to beat them by forcing them to have to prepare for more things. They'll just prepare for more things. Kirby Smart's a defensive genius, and he has the players to do it. Your best way to beat them is to throw things at them that they haven't seen before. So you want to throw things at them that they haven't seen before, meaning try your best to not show anything this weekend when you face off with them, because otherwise you could be in trouble. Today's tough question brought to you by Banks & Jones, Tennessee's trial attorney. Play to win. Why settle? Led by T. Scott Jones, banksandjones.com.
Why Banks & Jones? Well, it's because they're Tennessee's trial attorney. You can play to win with Banks & Jones because they'll go to trial. You've heard of other lawyers. They say they'll go to trial and fight for you. They won't. They just want to settle. That's the easiest way out. Well, that's not Banks and Jones, led by T. Scott Jones. They won't settle. They'll go to trial for you. Tennessee's trial attorney. They play to win. Truly, Tennessee's trial attorney when it comes to criminal defense or personal injury. Why settle? It's Banks and Jones. T. Scott Jones. BanksandJones.com.
The poll question up: should the Vols reveal any new wrinkles in their offensive scheme on Saturday? Yes, show what they've got, 29%. No, they won't need to, is at 71%. I'm with the 71%. I don't think they will need to. I think that'll keep it closer than it needs to be, but I maintain that they still won't need to. Steve Sullivan says it's a long season. Keep a few in your pocket. That is very, very true. Randy says it doesn't win. It doesn't matter as long as you win. But Randy, you want to win, but you also got to think long-term throughout the season. And you're not good enough to beat Georgia. Tennessee talent-wise is not good enough to beat Georgia. They have to out-scheme to beat Georgia. Part of out-scheming is throwing things at them that they're not ready for. Derek adds, they might be able to slow the run in the first half. I believe we'll see the run game pop by the third quarter, but I wouldn't be surprised to see a slow start and a lot of new players at important skill spots. Exactly. I agree. I think Derek, that it'll kind of be like last year's offense that would sputter in the first half and really get going on the ground in the second half. David Speaks, who brought up the Seth Littrell point, and Landry Jones also says, you're trying to contradict me when you say, when I point out that Syracuse had Donovan McNabb, when you say Syracuse had Donovan McNabb and Dwight Freeney in 98. Well, that is true, which would hint that, yes, Syracuse was a much tougher out than 98. I'm not here to deny that either, and I'll even bolster your point. They also had Keith Bullock, although Dwight Freeney was, I believe, just a freshman. But still, Dwight Freeney, Donovan McNabb, and Keith Bullock. However, what you're leaving out is how much more Tennessee had in 98. Tennessee had a 2,000-yard rusher at running back, a future NFL 2,000-yard rusher at running back. They had a future all-pro linebacker, now Wilson. They had a long-time starting NFL wide receiver in Peerless Price. They had a multi-time Pro Bowl offensive lineman in Chad Clifton, another future NFL starter on the offensive line in Kosi Coleman. They were just that Tennessee team was super loaded. Everywhere you looked, they had a future NFL Pro Bowler in Sean Ellis. I mean, they had a future NFL starter and an All-American at the time in Deion Grant. They had a guy who was good enough to be a future NFL Pro Bowler and quarterback Dwayne Goodrich outside of, didn't have him because of an unfortunate legal situation. But yes, Syracuse was more loaded with that talent in 98. Tennessee was even more loaded, though. Tennessee had insane talent that year. So yeah, it wasn't. That's why I say the gaps are similar at that point. But I don't think Tennessee is going to have to throw the kitchen sink as used by General Ursus. I don't think Tennessee is going to have to throw that at Syracuse on Saturday. So I maintain that you stick with your vanilla offense for 2 weeks until you have to face off with Georgia the third week of the season. That's obviously the most important game. And also, conference standings matter a lot now in the expanded playoff. That's going to be a big thing. So with that in mind, I just think that in general, you don't show a lot. Now, if it gets to the fourth quarter and you are in some trouble, maybe you have to show some wrinkles. Maybe that's when it happens. But I would say overall, I think you do your best to not reveal anything if you can help it.